Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be working on SonarQube. SonarQube is one of the biggest and one of the most used tool in CI/CD pipeline. As we can see, SonarQube has the following features: static code um, analysis for 15 languages. It helps to detect bugs, vulnerabilities, code smell, code quality, and all that. Um, we actually use SonarQube in CI/CD pipeline integration. So when your Jenkins is doing your build, it takes your code through SonarQube to make sure all the space are done to your code. It helps to detect bug vulnerabilities and make sure your code is ready for production and all that. So very quickly, there are two ways you can actually install SonarQube. You can install SonarQube using the embedded database, and you can also have external database, which means you can install your application and the database in one server, and you can also have your SonarQube server and your database server separately. So for instance, this is your SonarQube server, and this can be your database server. So the user logs into this application SonarQube server, and the data is moved into the database. Best practice actually suggests you always isolate application from the database, just in case something happened to your application server. You can quickly spin up another application server and tie it to your database. But for this exercise today, I'm going to install both the database and the application on just one single server, which means I'm doing this. So I'm having my database inside my server. I'm not isolating them. I'm not separating them. However, feel free to run a test, by separating them. All you want to make sure is your application can communicate with your database so that this guy can dump your data in your database. If the communication is not properly done, then your application is not going to run. You want to make sure the data is coming in. Make sure you have your firewall configured properly, configure your database to receive data from this application and all that. Let's go into uh, the installation. Um, so feel free to check my GitHub page. I have a very good documentation of SonarQube, and I have some other documentation too. I believe this is going to help us. It's just uh, straightforward. So one of the first thing we want to do is we want to install Java, okay? But because I'm installing the latest SonarQube, we are going to need Java. We're going to need Java 11. So the requirement is to use Java 11 because I am using um, this particular, I'm using the latest version. That's what I want to download. I'm not downloading the old version. And if you read your release note, you'll see it requires the latest Java. But before then, let's do a few things. So I turn off my firewall. I turn off my SE-Linux. So I'm going to install some things I would need. Zip. These are some of the things I'm going to need while downloading different packages and all that. So since we have that done, so I'm going to, let me make this a little bit bigger. Again, feel free to go to my GitHub page and you'll see this documentation. I'm just going to copy and paste this. This is a very detailed instruction. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it. I'm setting my U limit. So I think that was my mistake. I'm going to update this document to make sure before I leave. Let me just go ahead and update that. Don't need to have sudo in ulimit. So this is going to be, this should work for us now. Yeah, there you go. Cool. So now that we have that, so we can also set our, we can also set this, you know, I just like to make sure we have all these done before we move on. Okay, so we have that as best practice. You know, I like to make sure I match things, and this is just me. This is just me being me. Okay, so once that is done, we close the file, and now we have to install Java. But remember I said, because we are installing the latest version of SonarQube, it requires, this is Java 8, but we need Java 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the Java part for now, and I'm going to go ahead and install Postgres, which is our database. This is the database we're going to use for this installation. So I'm going to install the database first. So I am installing the repository for the database. And now I am going to install our database, Postgres database. So once that is installed, I'm initiating the database. As you can see, the database has been initiated. So now, because I am sudo, I'm not going to add the sudo part to all this. I'm root already. So if we open this file up, this is saying, anywhere you see peer, change it to trust. Anywhere you see IDNet, change it to MD5. So we go all the way down to the bottom of our file right here. And we say, anywhere you see peer, you change it to what? Trust. And anywhere you see ident, you change it to MD5. MD5. So we have that. So now we want to start our database. I'm going to clear my screen and I'm going to start our database. Our database started. I'm going to enable our database to auto start. And now I'm going to change the password to our database. Admin123, admin123. Now we have our database. Now we're going to switch user to Postgres. And the first thing we want to do is to create our database user. So I'm going to create user, and I'm going to call the user Sonar. My user is Sonar. Enter. Now I have a user. Now I want to switch to Postgres shell by doing PSQL. Enter. This is Postgres shell. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. This is how to create. This is how to create a user. I'm saying alter. I created a user called Sonar. Now I want to alter that user, Sonar. I want to give that user a password. I'll call the password admin123. Okay, I just altered the role. Remember, I created a user Sonar here, and now I'm saying alter user Sonar with encrypted password admin123. That means I'm creating this password for this user, which I created here. Now, I'm going to create a database also. So I'm going to create a database, and I'm going to call the database Sonar. And I want to make the owner of this database Sonar. So I have a database called Sonar, owned by Sonar. In your own case, you can give the database any name, SonarDB, whatever, but I'm using Sonar as my database name, okay? So database created. I just created a database called Sonar and it's owned by Sonar. So I have a user called Sonar. I have a database called Sonar, and the password of my user is admin123, and I'm giving that user rights to manage the database Sonar. So I'm done with my database. That was quick. So database part is completed. Now I have to exit and switch back to my system. So now I want to download SonarQube and start doing a SonarQube installation. So I have the link to the most updated SonarQube. So I'm going to go to my opt directory, and I'm going to copy the latest Sonar. Feel free to go to the website. Like I showed you, all you need to do is come to Sonar download, the website, go to downloads right here, and you can just, this is the latest. This is what I do, is come to, if I go to SonarQube download, which is the official website, I go all the way down, show all version, and I just copy the latest one. All you need to do is copy link location, and that's how I got this, okay? If I bring this right here using Widget, so Widget is going to download that package for me, and I'm going to get a zip file, okay? So ls, that's my zip file. I'm going to unzip the file with unzip command, and this should unzip the file for me. So once the file is unzipped, I like to remove the package once I have it extracted. And now I'm going to move SonarQube and rename it to SonarQube. SonarQube 8. I'm going to rename it to SonarQube. Now I have my file. So SonarQube application requires running as a regular user service account, not as root. So I'm going to create a user add. I'm going to call that user Sonar, and I'm going to give the user password Sonar. So I have a user. I'm going to add that user to CentOS file. I have that user in CentOS file. That user is called Sonar. So now I have a user, Sonar, that I want to use to manage the file. So now I have to do own and recursively change the owner and the group of the file SonarQube, of the directory SonarQube to Sonar. So if you look at it now, this is owned by Sonar. The file belongs to Sonar and the group belongs to Sonar. So this is what we want to achieve, and this is what we did here. So the first thing we want to do, don't forget, we still have our Java that we are yet to install. Okay, that's important piece, and we'll go back to that. Okay, so now what we want to do now is we want to go into our property file. If we go into our property file by doing cd SonarQube, we have, so any file, any application you download and you want to run, I'd mentioned in my past video, your bin file is where you start and do whatever you want to do. Your configuration file, conf file, is where you have your configuration. Now let's go to our conf file, and this is SonarQube configuration file. We do vim sonar properties, and right here is where you see everything about Sonar. So right here is saying Sonar JDBC username, which is our database, okay? Our database name is what? Sonar, right? And the password is what? Admin123. So you want to make sure you uncomment this. So, and you also want to come to Postgres. So now, depending on the database you are using, so if you're using embedded database, if you're using Oracle database, if you're using whatever you're using, different database, but we are using Postgres. But our Postgres is installed on the same server as the SonarQube. So we're going to leverage Postgres. So what I like to do, actually, I like to make a new copy of that file instead of modifying the file. And since we have our Postgres and our server on the same server, we can leave the local host. But if you have your database on a separate server, you want to put the IP address of the server right here. I can come all the way and just, our database is also Sonar. So this is sufficient for us. By default, SonarQube run on ports 9000. So we don't need to modify any other thing really, even though there are other things we can modify. If we want Sonar to be seen from a particular listing, from a particular host, we can modify this. If we want to change the ports, by default is 9000, but feel free to change it. If you want to apply context part like /SonarQube, you can do all those things, but let's leave it like this for now. That is done. So now we're going to go to the executable file. Since we want to run SonarQube as Sonar and not root, we have to change this. So once again, we go in the bin file, cd bin, and we go into Linux 64. So if you look at the file, opt SonarQube bin Linux 64, and we go into this executable file, which is the file that we use to start SonarQube. We comment it, and I'll come here and I'll find run. I just need to find the run as. Okay, right there. And I can remove the comments and change this to run as Sonar. Okay, run as Sonar. So the only thing we're missing right now, so now we've done all that. So the next thing is to switch the user to Sonar and start our SonarQube. And subsequently, we can come here. If we don't want to be starting it manually, we can add it to our systemd service and run it using our systemd service. If you have any issue, these are some of the configuration files you can look into and change some things. But let's go ahead and start this. And we want to make sure that the right Java is installed. So one thing I would like to mention as far as Java goes, we can have multiple Java running on our server. However, we have to be able to set our Java to the one we really want to use. So what I did for my system actually is I have 2 Java installed, okay? And I actually updated this document to have Java 11. I had Java 8 before, so this is Java 11. The document is actually updated to have Java 11, and all you need to do is run the Java. I already ran it, and I have this Java. But to see all the Java you have on your system, you can do alternatives, config, -config Java. And this shows you that you have, as you can see, let me redo this so that we can, as you can see, we have Java 1.8 and we have Java 11. So with this star now, it's telling me my system is using Java 11. If I change this to 1 and I do this, you know, and I come back here, you can see this is what I have now. Everything is on 1. But if I change it to 2, now I do the same thing. I have the star, the plus sign on 2 now. So if I have it on 1 and I clear my screen and I do Java version, Java version is showing me this is the version of Java I'm using. But if I go back right here and I change this to 2 and I do Java version, now it's telling me this is the version I'm using. So what I'm trying to explain here is we can have multiple Java installed on our system, but we should be able to configure such that we tell our system which of the Java to use for this application. And that's what I just did. So now that we have all that, so the next thing on our documentation, we've done this part. We switch user as Sonar, which is Sonar. Remember, we created that user, and now we want to go to this directory, cd/opt/SonarQube/bin/Linux 64-bit, and this is our executable script to start it, and we can do Sonar starts. With this should start our SonarQube. If you have problem at this point, then so many things can be responsible for that. You want to check your SE-Linux, you want to make sure, you want to check your configuration. This configuration part is actually very, very important. Especially if you're not using the same thing I'm using, or if you're using external database, you want to make sure your application server can communicate with your database. If that communication is not happening, then you won't be able to connect to your database and your installation won't be done successfully. Also, you want to make sure the firewall is open between your SonarQube application server and your database if you're using an external database. I don't have to worry about none of that because I'm installing my SonarQube and my database on one server. So they are in one server, so you don't have to worry about all those things. So let's go ahead and check the IP address of my Sonar server, which is this. Let's see. Remember, I said it's going to run on port 9000 by default. So actually, let's check this status first, because if okay, it's still running, it means something good is happening. So as you can see, we are able to load our SonarQube. And by default, uh, we have admin. So I'm going to go here, try and log in using admin. And as you can see, this is our SonarQube server. So the problem with this is every time our server shut down, now we will have to come here and rerun this. So we want to make sure we had our SonarQube service to system D. That way we can have our SonarQube run at boot time, even when the server goes down or something. So in order to achieve that, we want to create a SonarQube service. So I'm going to copy this. We want to create a SonarQube service. I'm going to do sudo vim. I'm going to paste that. SonarQube service is asking for my password. So that's going to be a new file. I'm going to copy all these inside the file. So you want to make sure your path is correct, okay? In this case, my path is correct. Everything looks right for me. My user is Sonar, my group is Sonar. If yours is not, and I'm pretty much saying anytime SonarQube goes down, please restart always. I'm going to close this file, okay? And I'm going to run this. Let me stop SonarQube, stop, so that we can use this. SonarQube service, it says that is now found. So let's make sure we have it there. I exited as root cd/etc/system d/system, and we have, okay, so we have, instead of SonarQube, I actually have Sonar. So these are some of the things we want to make sure. So I'm going to change it from Sonar service to SonarQube dot service. Okay, I'm going to change that to SonarQube dot service. And if I run that script now, because it's looking for SonarQube service, but we created it as Sonar, but I just changed the name. And I need to update this document to make this SonarQube so that it can match this. So if I have this here, so you should find it now. So now it started. Let's check the status. It said it's running, and now we can enable it. enable. So everything seems okay now. So I just need to update this. So let's go back to this. Let's refresh this page and everything seems fine. SonarQube is running. Everything is working fine. Thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for our next video. Thank you. Bye.